Coming up, who advised Netanyahu to prepare Israel for the Messiah? Where will the third temple be built, and what will happen to the dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque? Will they be relocated peacefully, destroyed by an earthquake, or shared through sovereignty? We'll explore where the Jewish temple once stood and what this means for the third Jewish temple in Jerusalem, Israel. The Rebbe, a globally influential rabbi with connections reaching the White House, became a spiritual advisor to Benjamin Netanyahu in 1984, when Netanyahu was appointed Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. I visited the great rabbi of Lubavitch, and here's what he told me. "You'll be serving in a house of many lies." The Rebbe taught that Jews could hasten the coming of the Messiah, the Anointed One, by obeying God's will. He criticized the Jews for not preparing for the Messiah, saying they were resisting God's will. It was the Rebbe who told Netanyahu that God had an important role for him, a politically insightful move. Inspired by the Rebbe, Netanyahu was encouraged to support the construction of the Mishkan, a dwelling place for God and a tabernacle. The Rebbe spoke urgently about the need for the third temple in Jerusalem, referencing the first and second Beit HaMikdash. In a widely reported private meeting, while Netanyahu was still relatively unknown, the Rebbe told him that he would be Israel's last prime minister, who would hand over leadership to the Messiah. When they met, the Rebbe reminded Netanyahu of his duty to hasten the Messiah's coming. Since these meetings, Netanyahu has become a key figure in the Middle East, with his decisions influencing the White House and political power centers worldwide. I first met the Rebbe in 1984 when I came to the UN. I wanted to see him, but times change. In 1994, the Rebbe passed away, and during clashes over the Temple Mount, Netanyahu repeatedly affirmed that there were no plans to change its status. Israel remains committed to maintaining the status quo on the Temple Mount, both in word and in practice. As we've stated many times, Israel has no intention of dividing the Temple Mount and completely rejects any suggestions to the contrary. Yet, politics is a game of chess, and the dream of the Third Temple endures. In 1967, all of Jerusalem came under Jewish control for the first time since ancient times. This event was seen as fulfilling ancient biblical prophecies and held profound prophetic significance. Will the Third Temple be built? Amid the war for survival, Israeli politicians were not focused on rebuilding the Jewish temple immediately. Control of the Temple Mount was handed over to Jordan and Jerusalem's Islamic Council, a decision seen by some as a brilliant move for peace and by others as a catastrophe that resulted in the loss of control over Judaism's most important site. Traditionally, Israel's parliament has avoided discussing the sovereignty of the Temple Mount, but attitudes are changing. For the first time, Knesset politicians are openly discussing the possibility of building the Jewish temple. As long as the Temple Mount is not under Jewish control, the Third Temple cannot be built, pausing the prophetic timeline. Although Israel's official policy has been to leave the issue alone, the importance of the temple was highlighted when the Prime Minister celebrated the opening of the American Embassy in Jerusalem. King David established our capital 3,000 years ago in Jerusalem. King Solomon built our temple, which stood for many centuries in Jerusalem. Jewish exiles from Babylon rebuilt the temple, which stood for many more centuries in Jerusalem. The Maccabees rededicated that temple and restored Jewish sovereignty in this land. And it was here in Jerusalem, some 2,000 years later, that the soldiers of Israel spoke three immortal words: "The Temple Mount is in our hands." Words that lifted the spirit of the entire nation. We are in Jerusalem, and we are here to stay. In Israel's parliament, people are now openly discussing the construction of the Third Temple. During times of war, priorities often shift to matters of profound significance. Since 1948, Israel has fought 8 major wars for survival and faced 10 other conflicts. Each adversary sought to destroy Israel and eliminate the Jewish presence. The most recent war has intensified this focus, shattering the hope of land for peace agreements. Many Israelis, including liberals, now wonder, if conflict is inevitable, why not proceed with building the temple? For Orthodox Jews, the repeated wars have shifted attitudes. Why not just build the temple? Some combatants carry symbols of the Jewish temple and openly call for its reconstruction. There is strong evidence that the Jewish temple stood on the Temple Mount 2,000 years ago. Although the exact location within the complex is still debated among archaeologists, Jewish leaders, and scholars, it is believed that Solomon's temple may have been located behind me right here. So the question is, did the Ark of the Covenant rest on the solid rock at the Dome of the Spirit, or was it located over here inside the Dome of the Rock? During Solomon's time, the smaller Temple Mount was filled with numerous buildings: the temple, his palace, his Egyptian wife's palace, and other important structures. It is thought that the rock at the Dome of the Rock was used by Solomon as a sanctified area for sacrifices due to the large number of animals. However, the flat area, perfect for the Ark of the Covenant, is believed by many to be where Solomon placed the Ark, in the Holy of Holies. Alternatively, Herod may have relocated it, as he altered many aspects of the temple. These varying perspectives illustrate the complexity of archaeological investigations in Jerusalem. Some theories propose that the temple was located directly where the Dome of the Rock stands today, while others suggest it was situated over the extensive underground system near the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Because of this uncertainty, some Jews believe it is possible to build the Jewish temple between the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque through a shared sovereignty arrangement. However, others argue that this would be impossible. In traditional Orthodox Judaism, Jews are forbidden to walk on the Temple Mount to avoid accidentally stepping on the Holy of Holies, whose exact location is unknown. Yet some Jews claim to know where the temple stood, making it safe for them to ascend the Temple Mount. In recent years, more than 50,000 Jews visit the Temple Mount annually. However, their behavior is strictly regulated. They must follow a defined route, be accompanied by security, and are not allowed to pray. Even a child breaking this rule will be arrested. The Bible states that the third temple in Jerusalem will rise to fulfill ancient messianic prophecies. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem believes that God will intervene to change the hearts of Muslims worldwide. Their official stance is that Muslim leaders will recognize the importance of the Jewish temple and voluntarily relocate the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. Others believe that only divine intervention will change the current situation. Throughout Jerusalem's history, many significant earthquakes have struck, destroying buildings and altering the city's landscape. These seismic events have left an indelible mark on the city's architectural and cultural heritage. Behind me, you can see evidence of a massive earthquake that split the bedrock itself, a testament to the sheer force of nature that has repeatedly shaped this ancient city. One of the most notable seismic events occurred 1,000 years ago when an earthquake caused the entire Dome of the Rock to collapse. This historical event is not just a legend, but is supported by archaeological evidence, demonstrating the vulnerability of even the most revered structures to natural disasters. The destruction of the Dome of the Rock by such a powerful earthquake serves as a poignant reminder of the impermanence of human constructs and the potential for future upheaval. In my book, The End Times, the Book of Revelation, I describe a similar event occurring during the end times. This prophetic vision aligns with both historical precedent and scriptural prophecy, suggesting that a massive earthquake could again strike Jerusalem, leading to significant changes in the city's religious and physical landscape. The book, a culmination of 8 years of meticulous research and writing, explores the intricate details of these end-time events, providing a comprehensive analysis of the prophecies and their implications for the future. For the third temple to be built, everything currently standing on the Temple Mount, including the Dome of the Rock, would have to be removed unless it is built side by side. This presents a significant challenge given the current religious and political sensitivities surrounding the Temple Mount. The prospect of constructing the third temple has long been a contentious issue, with profound implications for Jewish, Christian, and Muslim communities. However, the prophecies suggest that divine intervention, such as a massive earthquake, could create the conditions necessary for the third temple's construction. The Temple Institute, dedicated to preparing for the rebuilding of the third temple, has already crafted all the necessary instruments and garments for temple service. Their meticulous preparations reflect a deep-seated belief in the imminent fulfillment of these prophecies. They are poised to act swiftly when the opportunity arises, underscoring the urgency and anticipation surrounding this prophesied event. Imagine being here when Christ returns and seeing the third temple in place. Such a moment would be the culmination of millennia of religious yearning and prophetic expectation. The third temple, standing as a symbol of divine presence and fulfillment of prophecy, would mark a profound transformation in the spiritual and physical landscape of Jerusalem. It would signify the realization of ancient promises and the dawn of a new era in human history. The anticipation of Christ's return and the rebuilding of the Third Temple is not merely a matter of religious speculation, but is deeply rooted in scriptural prophecy and historical precedent. The potential for a massive earthquake to facilitate this transformation adds a dramatic and tangible element to these expectations. As we stand on the cusp of these prophesied events, the intersection of faith, history, and natural phenomena provides a compelling narrative that captures the imagination and stirs the soul. In conclusion, the history of earthquakes in Jerusalem, coupled with the prophetic visions described in the end times, the Book of Revelation, points to a future seismic event that could pave the way for the Third Temple's construction. The destruction of the Dome of the Rock by such an earthquake would align with historical precedents and fulfill scriptural prophecies. The preparations by the Temple Institute and the anticipation of Christ's return underscore the profound significance of these events. As we consider the past, present, and future of Jerusalem, the convergence of faith, history, and prophecy offers a powerful and inspiring vision of what is to come. Scripture tells us that in the end times, there will be a massive earthquake in Jerusalem. This prophetic event is not only a matter of future speculation, but also one that finds its roots in historical and geological evidence. Past earthquakes in Jerusalem have caused significant upheaval, splitting the bedrock and demolishing buildings, including the Dome of the Rock. These past events hint at the potential for future seismic activity that could pave the way for monumental changes in the city's landscape and religious significance. Throughout history, Jerusalem has been a focal point of seismic activity due to its location along the Dead Sea Transform fault system. This fault line has been responsible for numerous earthquakes over the millennia, some of which have had profound impacts on the city's architecture and society. The most notable of these earthquakes have left their mark by splitting the bedrock and toppling significant structures. Among the buildings affected by these tremors, the Dome of the Rock stands out as a key religious and historical monument. Its destruction, whether by past or future earthquakes, holds particular significance for the Jewish community. In Jewish eschatology, the rebuilding of the Third Temple is a pivotal event. The Temple Institute, an organization dedicated to preparing for this momentous occasion, has meticulously crafted all the necessary instruments and garments for temple service. They are poised to act swiftly when the opportunity arises. Many within the Jewish community believe that the destruction of the Dome of the Rock by a massive earthquake could be interpreted as a divine signal to commence the construction of the Third Temple. This belief is grounded in the conviction that God can and will intervene in human affairs to fulfill prophetic visions. The prophet Zechariah vividly describes an earthquake that will split the Mount of Olives, creating a vast valley. This cataclysmic event is not only a physical upheaval, but also a symbolic one, representing a divine intervention that changes the course of history. The splitting of the ground will provide an escape route for those fleeing from the Antichrist, according to prophetic literature. This act of divine intervention highlights the power and sovereignty of God in the midst of human tribulation. The anticipation of such an earthquake is not merely a matter of religious fervor, but is also supported by scientific evidence. Geologists have documented the seismic history of the region and have identified the potential for future earthquakes of significant magnitude. The interplay between prophecy and geology adds a layer of depth to the understanding of Jerusalem's future. As the bedrock of Jerusalem is split by a massive earthquake, it could indeed pave the way for the fulfillment of prophecies concerning the end times. In conclusion, the prophecy of a massive earthquake in Jerusalem during the end times is a multifaceted topic that encompasses religious, historical, and geological perspectives. The potential destruction of the Dome of the Rock by such an earthquake could serve as a catalyst for the construction of the Third Jewish Temple, a long-awaited event in Jewish eschatology. The Temple Institute's preparations and the prophetic vision of a split Mount of Olives underscore the belief in divine intervention in human history. As we consider the past seismic activity in Jerusalem and the scientific evidence supporting future earthquakes, the intersection of faith and science provides a compelling narrative for the prophesied events in the Holy City. The question of where the Third Temple will stand on the Temple Mount is crucial.